Hello, I'm Teresa Ruth Howard from MyBodyMyImage.com, and it's my pleasure to sit today with my friend and dancer and choreographer Camille A. Period. Brow. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So you just finished your first solo season at the Joyce.
Yes.
And I just went. So we're going to talk a little bit today about your work, your aesthetic, your style, and some of your background.
Okay.
Why don't you give your background? Do you want me to do it? Well, your dance background.
My dance background?
Yes.
Well, I just started yesterday, so really
She's phenomenal. Wow, you've got your own show? Hateful.
Hey, the hustle.
It's
hard work.
I'm a hustler,
Right.
Alright, so...
Okay, so I started, watching videos like Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson videos and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Read it.
musicals. Thriller, I love the Thriller.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I used to go in. right. With chorus line, I had like a little straw hat. I would put it on.
You were that girl.
Yeah, I was that girl. And my mom wanted to put me somewhere for the weekends. So she decided to put me at Bernice Johnson's, which was maybe about 10 minutes away from. I'm originally from Jamaica, Queens, so it was.
She's another New York girl.
Yes, I am. So that was exciting, and I didn't really know that it was something that I could do, because in the world of professions, like dancer wasn't really
one of
that
those.
you heard,
It was a hobby.
Yeah, it was a hobby. It was the thing you liked doing, and then at the end of the year, you had your little show, and then that was it. But it wasn't until I got to. Oh, I also went to Carolyn DeVore Dance, and I went to LaGuardia High School.
But how did you get to LaGuardia? Because so like, who was the person that was like, ooh, you could do
my
this?
My teacher, Brian Hawthorne. He was one of the first people that took me and said, you have something, you have to work on your technique,
right?
But you have something there. So
and what were you taking? What were the tech you were taking?
I was taking ballet. I was taking jazz, African, modern.
Oh, you were at a dance school.
Oh no, we were at a dance school.
You were at a dance school.
We started at 9 and we ended at 9. We hip hop, we had everything.
You had everything.
Everything.
So you auditioned for LaGuardia, and is that when that sort of changed, like the idea of the professional world or the professional study? I guess.
Yeah, it did. Because LaGuardia actually introduced me to the Ailey School, because a lot of the kids at LaGuardia, they went there after school. So of course, I said, I want some more training too. So I auditioned for Ailey, and I got a scholarship. I was in the junior division, and it was hard for me because I feel like I was always good at moving really well, but I wasn't as technically strong. And I actually, when I went to Ailey, I took extra classes to try to keep up, because I felt like once I got to the Ailey School, I was probably the least technical person in my class.
And what do you think that was about? Because I know, as you work with dancers, you see that. You see natural movers, and somehow like the technique, either because they either started late or they're just not technical people. Which is funny, because when I look at you, I feel like I can see all your technique.
That's so crazy.
Feel like because Camille, after training at Ailey, your first company was Ron Brown.
Yeah.
And so, which is very heavily African based. So, but you have ballet, modern, all that jazz, all the stuff that you get at Ailey, and in your choreography, I see all those things. And when I see you specifically, I can, it's like, let's play name that technique. And you can see it's so clear in your body.
Yeah,
so congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So speak to being that dancer, the mover who has to work at being a technician, because whether you know it or not, you conquered it.
Which is crazy, because people have told me, you're so technical, and in my head I'm like, no, I'm not. I was, in my head I'm still like that 13-year-old girl that was looking and seeing.
And maybe that's why you're so technical, because you're like, I got it.
Yeah, so I fought hard. Like, I took extra Ailey classes. I think we only could take, maybe the required amount was maybe 2 modern classes for that week. and I was on scholarship, so you know you had your set format.
Right.
But I would actually, we had no classes on Wednesday. I would actually go on Wednesday to take the other modern class just to try to keep up with everybody. I just felt like I was so far behind.
And did you have an approach? I mean, like, what type of student mentally were you? Like, when you went to these classes, how did you approach them? Because I think a lot of the students that I'm seeing are taking classes and classes, but like sometimes blocked because they're not taking their class in the right way, either mentally or physically.
I think in LaGuardia, I mean, first my teachers were great. I call the teachers that really looked at my body and taught to my body my angels. And then I had the teachers that, because I didn't have the considered ideal body, never looked at me twice, you know. And like you said, wouldn't even know my name,
right?
You know.
What do you call them? I don't.
But it was really hard. Like I was always a fighter. I always believed that, you know, I worked hard, but there was a lot of pain and hurt that went for that too, because I would see the people that had the ideal bodies and they would always get corrected and they would always get casted and everything would just happen for them, and I wanted it so bad, but it was clear that my path was not theirs, and I was starting to get defeatist because I said, well, I want to be where they are as well, but how can I get there if I'm not getting the coaching and the training that I need to get there?
Right. And you're a very specific body type. First of all, you're very petite.
Yeah.
And so that is already one thing, because if someone's standing next to you and they're like 5'11", you're like, gee, thanks.
Yeah. And then I have a butt, and then I have this, I got all this stuff going on, and it was more with the ballet teachers. I felt like the modern teachers were more not accepting, but they taught my body. You know, they gave me notes. It was some of the ballet teachers that really didn't focus on me at all, and I started correcting myself. I did get sad about it, but I tried to change in my thinking. Okay, well, if you're not going to give me the note, whoever you give the note to, I'm just going to pretend that's me and take the note and correct myself regardless.
This is really important. So it's about self-teaching. So that's how you started to take your classes.
Yeah, it was to the point where when I got to college, one of my teachers, Warren Conover, who I still talk to now, he's great. But I was at the bar, and while we were doing bar, I was doing this, and he came to me and was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, it was just so routine. It had become routine
because you had to be with yourself in a certain way in order to get the information in your body."
Yeah, and I wasn't going to assume that the ballet teacher was going to look at me, because it would go either way. You never knew. So I was just like, okay, well, let me just do what I have to do. And he was like, no, let me correct you. Let me do it.
So I was like, oh wow.
Oh wow, you're gonna look at me. Oh, okay. So, and I feel like I know you had said something about being blocked earlier in the conversation, and I feel like I was pushing hard, but I felt like part of me was also blocked in a way. And I feel like once I got to college, my body started changing. I became more aware of my body, and that block became to go away.
Do you know what that was?
I feel like there was a lot of, in high school, I had to deal with, I said my angels and then the other people.
Right.
And I feel like in college, everybody was correcting me. There was like this.
Maybe it's also like a change of environment.
Yeah, maybe that too. And that's one of the reasons why.
Because you're young, you end up with these people. There's all this social stuff that goes into being in high school in general. Now you're dancing, and then there's like a different type of competition.
Yeah.
So once you just change environments, and you get new eyes on you.
That's
too.
Right. Yeah, and it was a different technique. I mean, we focused on we focused on modern.
But you went to North Carolina School for the Arts? Okay.
But in Ailey, we focused on Graham and Horton, and then we had ballet. But then when I got to North Carolina, it was Cunningham, it was Lamone, it was Taylor. We didn't have Graham, and we didn't have Horton. So,
did you think that those techniques were better for your body, or was that not an issue?
Well, at first I was really rebellious because when you're in an environment and all you know is that, and I'm also thinking, okay, I'm not as technical as everybody. this is what I need, and then all of a sudden you don't get that. It's like, what do you mean I need that?
So you thought you knew.
I thought I knew what I needed.
Right.
So I was very hesitant.
Right.
Yeah, but very resistant to those techniques at first. But then when I started seeing my body react and accept it in my body,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh wow, maybe this can work. Like maybe this is something like. I grew up, like
right.
I matured.
This is another way.
This is another way. Sorry.
It's so interesting because I say this I just said this morning in class. I was like, the minute that you think you know something is the moment that you stop learning.
That's right.
Because once you know, you're done.
That's right.
And you just have to open yourself up to the idea that maybe, possibly, there's another way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying you don't know something, because you do, but
yeah.
you just don't know everything.
Yeah.
There could be another way.
Right. And I had yoga. I started getting yoga there too because Carla Wolfengo, who was my first minor teacher that I got to when I went to North Carolina,
mm-hmm.
the first half hour we just did straight yoga, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know it was yoga.
Right.
I just knew it was like this intense. She's so intense. Like, that's all I was thinking. She's so intense. Like, oh, all this stuff. So I think that like the breathing, like in and out of the body,
right.
these were things that I had never really
thought about.
Yeah.
Right.
So it just, and I could see my body change. I could see my classmates' bodies change, and that.
Like, what was that? Were you getting
amazing.
longer, or were you getting more open?
Yeah, I felt like I was getting longer. I felt like I had a sense of placement
mm-hmm.
because I never understood it when I was younger. Like they would always come to me and they would do one of those.
Were you a
things.
pusher?
What
like
do you mean?
you worked really hard.
So I worked really hard.
Yeah.
Steve Brooks would tell me to lighten up all the time.
Steve.
Yeah, lighten up. And
so maybe that's why, until that breathing maybe helped you relax and give your body some space. You could feel what was going on.
But the fight was, you don't have any time. You
right.
Yeah. I don't have any time to
mess around.
Yeah, never missed a class. Like I cried. Like one day I couldn't go to school because I was sick, and I just cried. Because I felt like that's one more day that I can't.
Oh my God, going backwards.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You hear that? There's like, no, I just feel like sometimes there is a lack of urgency
mm-hmm.
in some of the students the younger people now. It's like there's a lack of urgency. Like, oh, well, tomorrow,
mm-hmm.
like you can order something on Amazon and it's
mm-hmm.
coming. My artistry's on its way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just real sort of like, and their world actually moves faster than our world did.
Yeah.
And we were like,
Yeah.